The notion that mainstream media uses climate change to oppress Christians is a complex and multifaceted topic. While it may seem like a far-fetched claim, there are some arguments that suggest the media's portrayal of climate change can have a disproportionate impact on Christian communities. To explore this idea, it's essential to examine the ways in which climate change is typically framed in the media and how this framing may affect Christian audiences. One argument is that the media's emphasis on climate change can be seen as a form of moralizing, where those who do not conform to the dominant environmental narrative are cast as villains or ignoramuses. This can be particularly problematic for Christians, who may be more likely to prioritize issues like poverty, abortion, or religious freedom over environmental concerns. By framing climate change as a moral imperative, the media may be inadvertently creating a sense of guilt or shame among Christians who do not share the same level of enthusiasm for environmental activism. Another issue is the way in which climate change is often tied to a broader secular agenda, which can be at odds with Christian values. For example, some environmentalists argue that population control is essential for mitigating the effects of climate change, which can put them at odds with Christians who believe in the sanctity of human life. Similarly, the media's focus on climate change can sometimes lead to a glorification of secular, technocratic solutions that neglect the role of faith and spirituality in addressing environmental issues. This can create a sense of disenfranchisement among Christians who may feel that their perspectives and values are being ignored or dismissed. Furthermore, the media's coverage of climate change can also perpetuate negative stereotypes about Christians, portraying them as science-denying, anti-environmental extremists. This kind of caricature can be damaging, as it reinforces the idea that Christians are inherently opposed to science and reason. In reality, many Christians are deeply concerned about environmental issues and are working to address them in ways that are consistent with their faith. By ignoring or marginalizing these voices, the media may be contributing to a sense of polarization and division, where Christians feel that they are being unfairly maligned or excluded from the conversation. It's also worth noting that the media's focus on climate change can have a disproportionate impact on Christian communities in developing countries. For example, in some African nations, climate change is often framed as a Western concern that distracts from more pressing issues like poverty, hunger, and disease. By prioritizing climate change above other development concerns, the media may be inadvertently perpetuating a form of environmental colonialism, where the interests of wealthy Western nations are imposed on vulnerable, Christian-majority communities. In conclusion, while the idea that the mainstream media uses climate change to oppress Christians may seem exaggerated, there are some legitimate concerns about the ways in which climate change is framed and presented in the media. By prioritizing the secular, environmental narrative, the media may be inadvertently marginalizing or excluding Christian perspectives, which can have negative consequences for Christian communities. Rather than dismissing these concerns, it's essential to engage in a more nuanced and inclusive conversation about climate change, one that acknowledges the diversity of perspectives and values within the Christian community. By doing so, we can work towards a more equitable and just approach to environmental issues, one that respects the contributions and concerns of all people, regardless of their faith or background.